I think it's time that we talked about sourdough starters. Sourdough starters are one of those things that feels super formidable in a modern day kitchen. I get a ton of questions about this, a ton of people who are really hesitant to start, wondering if they have the time, wondering if they can keep it going and not kill it. So if you have my cookbook, I have a sourdough starter tutorial on page 256, but I still wanted to shoot this quick video today to walk you through in a very informal way how I do a no fuss, no headache, no stress sourdough starter from scratch. Now here's the trick with sourdough that I want you to keep in mind. Sourdough can become a full-time hobby. Okay, pause that thought. I have a child coming in. Hold on, they were playing outside. I'm coming. How come you can't open this door anymore? Is it not opening?
Yeah, it's too hard for me.
Oh. It's just because you can turn sourdough into a very intensive hobby doesn't mean it has to go to that extent. You can totally keep a sourdough starter in your kitchen, and it really doesn't take a whole lot of brain power or hands-on time. Okay, first things first, I've got to address my current sourdough starter. It's in a half-gallon jar, but it needs a new jar. It's pretty crusty and grody. I do this about every, I don't know, whenever it starts to get crusty and gross, basically. We have a lot of starter in here. We'll probably make sourdough pancakes tomorrow just to use some of it up. You don't have to keep this much. You can kind of bulk it up if you want to do a lot of baking, or you can let it be pretty scant. It totally depends on your schedule. In case you were wondering if I'm a tidy cook, I am not. So how we care for this starter is basically we just feed it once a day. Equal parts flour, water. We leave a lid on the jar, but we don't screw it down super tight. I want to let some air flow in there. I literally just take a canning lid, or you could do a rag and a rubber band, and I just set it lightly on to keep bugs or dust or junk from falling inside, but that's it. He lives on the counter here in the kitchen unless we're going on vacation or something like that, and then I stick it in the fridge. All right, so now I'm gonna walk you through the steps of how you can start your own starter by capturing wild yeast from the air. All right, I hope you're ready for this, because this will literally be the easiest thing you've ever done in your kitchen. Grab your jar, grab a funnel if you're messy like me, and we're just gonna take a ½ cup of flour. You can use whole wheat flour. Sometimes I think it gives your starter a little extra boost, but I have started my sourdough starters plenty of times with all-purpose flour. I prefer the unbleached organic flour, but go ahead and take ½ cup of that and dump it right in your jar. Okay, next we're gonna add about ¼ cup of that unchlorinated water. It can be cool, it can be warm, it can be room temperature. I don't really care. I have about ½ cup in here, so I'm gonna add a little less than that. My spoon's a little too big for this job. Maybe use a smaller spoon. I added about ¼ cup of water. It's still a little bit on the thick side, as I want like a pancake batter consistency, and this is more of a biscuit dough consistency. But I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more water. And here's the thing, guys. Whoa. I don't want you to overthink this. This is so easy. So if it's a little runny the first time, it's okay. If it's a little thick the first time, it's okay. It all turns out. Here comes the hard part. Prepare your heart. Take your paper towel or your lid, like you could use a lid like this if you wanted. Set the paper towel on the jar. Take a rubber band, or an old hair tie works if you're in a pinch, and stick it on top and ignore it for 24 hours. And then in 24 hours, we're going to repeat what we just did. All right, day 2, let's see what we've got. And we have bubbles. That is exactly what we want. All right, since our brand new baby starter was bubbly this morning, I'm gonna go ahead and feed it again. I'm gonna go ½ cup of flour, ¼ to 1/3 cup of water, give it a stir, let it sit for another 24 hours. If at this point in your starter's life, you've noticed that the bubbles haven't started yet, I just want you to leave it for another 24 hours on the counter and give it a little bit more time. Doesn't smell like sourdough yet, it just smells like flour and water. So in the meantime, I want to show you our existing sourdough starter. We need to feed this starter today. Now the problem is obviously there's a lot of starter in there, and if we were to go 1 to 1 to 1 ratio, that's going to be a whole lot of starter. So we got to discard some of that. And how are we going to discard that starter today, Mace?
Make sourdough pancakes.
And Bridger over here is working on what? What are you doing, dude?
I'm building the fire.
Building the fire. So Kids went out to do chores now, and I'm on pancake duty for the moment. All right, it's day 3, and I'm happy to report that we have some serious bubble action happening. But that's exactly what you want. All those happy little bubbles coming up the sides of the jar. Now, if your starter does not look like mine, I don't want you to freak out quite yet, okay? It can take a few more days sometimes to get the bubbles going. Give it a good week before you completely scrap it and start over. Okay, but regardless of whether or not you have bubbles at this point, we just need to feed it and let it sit. So there's one change from yesterday. So if we were to go with our 1-to-1-to-1 ratio today, it's gonna be overflowing this jar, which I have done before, and it's quite the mess. So I can either get a bigger jar, or I need to remove a portion of this starter to make sure that I can follow my 1-to-1-to-1 ratio without overtaking my kitchen. I'm gonna dump about half of this out. I'm gonna have roughly a half a cup left, not going crazy exact. So this is what we call discard. You can still use this in recipes. There's recipes for sourdough pancakes like we made yesterday morning, waffles. I have recipes for sourdough brownies and crackers and all sorts of things that use this discard without throwing it down the drain. But we're gonna set that aside and we're gonna go ahead and feed our remaining starter. Half a cup of flour, just like yesterday. 1/4 cup, 1/3 cup of water. All right, and that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna keep repeating this. When the starter is consistently active and bubbly, and when it grows up the sides of the jar within about 2 or 3 hours of me feeding it, then I know it's ready to make sourdough breads or any sort of sourdough recipe that needs a lot of rise in it. Do you need help?
Yeah. Its feet are tied up.
How did that happen?
I don't know, I just found it.
Okay, hold on. Do you need scissors? Is it being nice? Oh, it looks like it got tangled up in a piece of string from the feed bag.
Gotta be careful because he tried to bite me.
The feet are free. Okay, you gonna go take them back out?